Hello and welcome back to Shulchan HaRav. We continue in Hilchos Netilas Yadaim with a new Siman, Baruch Hashem, Siman Kuf Samachay, 165. Din ha'isat tzarcha v'roitz le'echel, someone who uses the restroom and then wants to eat. Uboyz gimel sifim. There are 3 sifim, and sif aleph is really long. We're going to split that into 2 probably. Let's see how it goes. Sif aleph. Ha'isat tzarcha, someone who uses the restroom v'roitz le'echel, and now he wants to eat. Yitel beis pa'am. He's got to wash twice. Rishayna yitel netilas she'ena k'michasher l'achil. The first one is not going to be a washing that's going to allow him to eat. Ela linkas yodav. It's just to cleanse his hands. Levarech asher yotzar, so he can make an asher yotzar. Ushniya, and then the second washing will be netila kishay levarech al netilas yadayim, which will be an appropriate washing for making an al netilas yadayim for eating. She'im yitol netila achas, because if he would only make one washing, kishera, that would be appropriate for eating. Ve'varech techil asher yotzar, and then he makes an asher yotzar right after that washing, because he would have to do it that way because he became obligated in that bracha first. And also the bracha of asher yotzar is more common, happens more often. And so if you make that bracha and then he makes the bracha al netilas yadayim, he hefsek, then he's making an interruption between between the washing and the bracha, because he washed for netilas yadayim, but he made another bracha in between. So you can't do it that way. So maybe you say, okay, fine, make netilas yadayim first, wash once, make al netilas yadayim, and then say asher yotzar. Then you're going to have interruption between the al netilas yadayim and the hamaitzi, because you made asher yotzar in between. And there are those that say you're not allowed to do that. That's an isser, to make a separation between what you did for washing and do some sort of activity that's not part of your meal. Or some, has nothing to do with what you're about to do, which we explained later, but nevertheless, you can't do it that way either. So let's say he only wants to wash once, so what does he do? And he can make an asher yotzar while he's still rubbing his hands together to clean them milichluchan from the dirt he might have gotten on himself from the bathroom. That's after the first washing, the first pouring, I guess, you should say, because at that point he can make a bracha. His hands are clean enough now from the one washing to make a bracha. He cannot use that one pouring for his washing to eat. As we've learned, you got to pour the water twice. So then he can do that and then make al netilas yadayim while he's drying his hands. Because in this way there's no interruption between the washing and the bracha on either side. On the first side, there's no interruption between the washing and the hamaitzi on the second side. Because he really didn't complete the washing technically until he poured the second water, so he hasn't really finished the washing and can't make it's not a hefsek because he didn't finish. But for example, he poured on both hands in one shot. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to rub them together if you only did one. Until you pour the second water. As we learned earlier, that the first water is the water that's on there is still tameh, and you can't do anything about it until you pour the second water. So we're talking about he poured on both hands at the same time. Nevertheless, it's really, even though this would be a way out of the situation where you went to the bathroom and now you want to eat, it's better, much better, says the Alter Rebbe, it's much better to wash twice. Because most of the time, because most of the time when you're pour a full revius in one shot on both hands, or on one hand at a time, in only one pouring, because since you have a full revius, you don't need technically a second pouring. So now you've already finished, and now there will be a hefsek. So this guy went to the bathroom, now he wants to eat, so he washed for having gone to the bathroom, and he washed the right way. However, he forgot to make the asher yotzar until he poured the second pouring, the second washing, right? Which is or he poured a full revius in one shot. So now he's completed this washing, right? So he can't make an asher yotzar the yitel shenis, then wash a second time, and then say v'yivarech al netilas yadayim, and then say an al netilas yadayim after the second washing. He's already fulfilled the obligation to wash with the first washing. So if he washes a second time, he can't make a bracha on that washing. You can't make the al netilas yadayim bracha on the second washing by itself, because you're not obligated now. You already washed. So what about this case? So he'll make the bracha for washing, the first washing, after the second washing. Well, now that's not any good either. Now there's a separation between the washing and the bracha, right? So that's the idea here would be that he's going to make a bracha of asher of al netilas yadayim, and then he's going to make a bracha on the first washing after the second washing. So he made an interruption already. He made asher yotzar. So now he makes an asher yotzar between these two brachas. So now he made an interruption with this bracha between the washing and its bracha, right? So therefore, Ella, this is what he should do in this case. This is the guy again who forgot to make an asher yotzar. He can make an al netilas yadayim just on this original washing, and then after that he makes his asher yotzar. That asher yotzar in this situation, even though typically we don't want to have interruptions between the washing and the hamaitzi, the asher yotzar here is not a hefsek, because it's also part of the process of purifying one's hands. Therefore, the asher yotzar can be in between the washing and the hamaitzi, even though normally we wouldn't do that. But between the washing and the bracha, one should be more concerned about an interruption there, where there should be no interruption whatsoever between the washing and the bracha, right? And this would also, if he did it this way, if he said asher yotzar, and then he said al netilas yadayim, it's two interruptions. There's one interruption between the washing and the bracha for the washing, and one between the washing and the hamaitzi. So the other way is the best way if he's supposed to do it, right? He first makes al netilas yadayim on the washing he did, and then he makes an asher yotzar after that before hamaitzi. Even though normally we wouldn't make a hefsek, that's not considered a hefsek. Now, those people who are careful that they don't speak between washing and hamaitzi, however, but they are interrupted between the washing and the bracha of the washing, that's a mistake. You can't talk at all. You got to teach these people to not speak at all. And what if the guy, this is all talking about a guy who went to the bathroom before the meal. What if he had to go in the middle of the meal? He doesn't have to make another hamaitzi, of course, when he comes back. He also only has to wash once now for going to the bathroom. There is no interruption. There's no issue here of an interruption between asher yotzar, between his washing and then the meal, because he's already in the meal. Because even between washing and hamaitzi, there's you're permitted to have this minimal hefsek, like we just said, and will be spoke about more later. We don't have to be worried to those who forbid it, that only forbid between the washing and the hamaitzi. That's all you have to be worried about, is that you shouldn't, those people who say it's usher to have an interruption between washing and hamaitzi, because Chazal say, Kol hatekef birkas hamaitzi netila, anyone who puts the bracha of hamaitzi right after the netila, eina nizik b'chol yisasuda, he'll never suffer any kind of damage during that meal, right? So you want to be concerned for that. But now, whether in this case where you're not making an hamaitzi because you're in the middle of the meal already, you don't have to be worried about a larger interruption, like between washing and eating, which is us to everybody. Because that's the Chazal's takanas, that you have to wash and then make your meal right away, as we learned later, and we also learned that earlier in 164. So when the hamaitzi is not recited, like this case, because in the middle of the meal, he only has to make sure to not make a significant interruption between washing and eating. because everybody would agree to that because of the too long of a separation. Have a great day.